The King Center's beloved Community Talks convenes influential voices around the world, bridging the racial divides. These courageous conversations are the first of several spectacular beloved Community Talks in 2018 surrounding this most important topic plaguing our nation today. Join us in this movement. Let's have the conversation. Let's bridge the racial divide in our nation and world.
Under this new administration in the White House, how do you see bridge building for people of color and immigrants living in America being integrated into the American culture without any discrimination from the current administration, especially with the recent negative comments from the president towards the African nations?
Listen, I try to find the good in everybody. But I have to say, I've had to pray more, a lot more over the past year. The president has made it difficult. He really has. I don't think good is relegated to Democrats or good is relegated to Republicans, because there are good people in both parties and there are bad people in both parties. But the president has, and I think he gets off on division sometimes. Like it's added fuel or some excitement. And as a result, that is not making America great again. When we are divided, we are at our worst, not at our best. And we have to figure out, how do we get ourselves back on point? And that's when good people on the Republican side are going to have to stand up and say, you know what, Mr. President, enough. Stop it. You can't be complicit, though. And we've seen, with the incident that took place this past week, you had senators that sat in that meeting, and initially they said, "Oh, I forgot," or I don't remember hearing that. And then, 2 days later, they've changed their minds and said, "Well, that was not said." Well, you said you didn't remember that ever being said, and now you're saying it wasn't said, but yet your colleagues are saying that it was. Where's the truth in that? And we just can't stand up for that, because there are kids. I have a friend who has a young child who, when the president was elected, went to school, came back home crying because she thought her friends would be deported. That's not the faith, that's not the energy that makes us America. That is not what is etched on the side of the Statue of Liberty. We need to think about, and I plead to my Republican friends, y'all need to sit down and have a conversation with the president and say enough is enough of this dividing us. Let's bring us all together. Because at this point, I can tell you, I've never seen in politics, I get up, and I could never say I've ever said this about anybody, but when he gets on TV, like this nastiness in me just boils up. And I've always tried, my grandma said, you never hate anybody. And you might not like them, but you don't hate them. But there are moments when I catch myself and I have to bring myself back, and I got to go pray a little harder. We got to do something in this country, and I think our president really has to help us in leading, and friends of his have to go back. And I wish he would just listen to Randy. To be quite honest, Randy, I don't know, whenever you get that confirmation, you go in that White House and just do a lesson, because we need that right now.
If you remember, I said to me there are three kinds of racism. One is personal racism, where people differentiate on the basis of the color of skin. More often than not, to me, I can spot that by someone's social network. Literally, I can. If you go look at somebody's social network, and if they have to say to you, "I have a African American friend," the moment I hear that, I immediately think to myself, okay, I don't need to know any more. So I measure it by social networks. And I think, candidly, with all due respect to everybody, if you If you checked out President Trump's social networks and looked at who he considers his friends and close acquaintances and golfs with and dines with and plays with, etc., you're not going to find a racist president in that regard. It's just not there. And I offer to you to just talk to people who are your colleagues in community, and you'll find that to be true. That does not mean that the other two aren't true, systemic and institutional. Systemic discrimination is this idea that, okay, we base it on a meritocracy, but where the beginning line wasn't the same. Now, the difference with President Trump is he's very data-driven. And so the net effect to him is, if you talk to him in terms of data, how many African Americans now have jobs for the first time? Is it at a record highest level of employment among African American employees in the history of the country? Are more African Americans being admitted to colleges and institutions than ever? Are the collective scores higher than they've been before? That's the data that he listens to. And so, you know, am I a big fan of the tweets? I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not, but I'm not a tweeter myself. On the flip side, I also know how it works. And so what we have to do is we have to bridge the communication divide. We have to figure out the solution to the question that I posed to you, which is, what is it that he needs to hear in data and in ways that he appreciates, as opposed to just yelling at him and calling him names? And I think the moment you start talking, or we start talking, in terms of here's what it means to these communities at the end of the day, I think you'll have his attention, and I think you'll see policy changes that reflect that.
Thank you for watching this segment of Beloved Community Talks. For information on how you can join us in bridging the racial divide by hosting your own courageous conversation, please visit us on the web at belovedcommunitytalks.org. We hope that you were inspired and will continue to take action with us to expand the beloved community movement against racism through nonviolent methods around the globe. Together, we will bridge the racial divide and fulfill Dr. King's dream of building the beloved community.